Hello, this is a quick video to try to help you secure your Zoom meetings with your classes. Do you want to learn how to deal with a student that's being unruly? You can put them in the waiting room. I'll show you how to do that. Also, you want to prevent people who you don't know from coming into your meeting, what's known as Zoom bombing. We're going to show you how to do some settings and some simple things to prevent that. So watch this video and change these settings, and that'll help you out. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you are logging into Zoom using your school account, because our school has already set up a lot of these settings the way they are best. And so you should be sure. From Hackensack, we're clicking on this Zoom, and you want to make sure that you are logging in with your Google. You'll see a Google box. I'm already logged in. So over here you can see this is my account, and I'm logged in using my school email. So make sure you're logged in with your real account from school. Okay, the second very important thing you want to make sure you have turned on is what's known as the waiting room. The waiting room is not an actual place. There's no meeting, there's no video there. That's just a white screen that people see when they first try to enter your meeting. And until you click on their name and allow them into the meeting, they're just not in the meeting. You want to make sure that's turned on so that you can control who's coming in the meeting. You see the person's name and you decide each person. So to make sure you have that setting turned on, from this Zoom page, when you first log on to Zoom before you start a meeting, you're going to click on Settings, and then you want to find the waiting room. It's all the way down on the list. Here's a quick computer trick. You want to find the word waiting room on this long page. So rather than scroll around and look around, I'm going to do Control F. This little search bar pops up. I'm going to start to type in waiting, and you can see that waiting shows up 4 times in this web page. This is a good little computer trick that you can use on any website when you're searching a lot of text. So here is the word waiting room. And by the way, if you click this down arrow, it would show you all the different times that a particular word shows up on that web page. In this case, this brought me right to where I want to be. And as you can see, I already have the waiting room turned on. You want to have the waiting room turned on to make sure that you can control everyone who's coming into your meeting or your classes. Okay, so here I'm in a meeting. I'm going to join with my iPad. But by the way, even though we changed that last setting back in settings, just kind of double check here under security and make sure that you still have a checkbox under enable waiting room. That's another way to turn the waiting room on per meeting. The other setting should leave it on by default, but you may have unchecked this. If you uncheck this, then the waiting room won't be turned on, and anyone who has the link can join your meeting. So I'm going to join from my iPad now. And so my iPad is trying to get into the meeting. And this is what you see. Right now on my iPad, it just says, this is the waiting room. It's nothing. It's a blank screen that says the host will let you in. And you, as the host or teacher, can look and say, is that somebody I want in my meeting? They're not in your meeting. They're not disturbing your meeting. They're outside of your meeting. You could choose to admit them or not. If it's not someone you know, don't admit them. But of course, if it's a student of yours trying to get in, you can admit them, and now they're in, and then they will be joined. And so there I am there I am there. That's how the waiting room works. By the way, you can use the waiting room as sort of a timeout. Let's say a student is being unruly and doing something in your class that is disturbing, and you want to finish teaching the rest of the class, but that one student can't deal with it and you need to remove them. If you come over to the Manage Participants, which opens up all of the participants so you can see them over here, and if Theodore's iPad is acting up, without their permission, I can just simply put them in the waiting room, and now they're back out of the room, and I can continue teaching, continue my thought, go on teaching while that student is sort of, like sending them to the hallway when you're in school. You can put them in the waiting room, and then if you decide to, you can admit them back into the room. With the waiting room enabled, you have that ability and you have that control. So that's another good reason to have the waiting room. Another good feature is to lock the meeting. If you know you have everyone in the meeting that you want and you don't want to be disturbed with anyone else, trying to get into the meeting, there's a feature that once you kind of have everyone in the meeting that you want, you can lock the meeting. If you look over here to the little dot 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 ellipsis button, you can just choose to lock the meeting, and from that point forward, for your class period or whatever, no one else will be able to get into your meeting. So that's another good feature that you could choose to have. And I suppose if you had a reason to, you could temporarily also unlock the meeting. So now I have unlocked it. So that's another good security feature that's available to you. And finally, maybe you just want to remove someone and you don't want to put them in the waiting room. You just want them gone. They're in your meeting and you want them out of the meeting and you don't want them to be able to return. So let's say Theodore's iPad is acting up again. Bad boy, Mr. iPad. You have the ability to remove them. Now notice that when I say, when mine does it, it says once removed, this person will not be able to rejoin this meeting. Okay, so they're locked out. But you also, in order to get this to happen, you need to have a certain setting turned on. If that setting's not turned on, they'll be able to just rejoin the meeting. And we've had a teacher that's been having that problem. So where's that setting? Let me go back into settings. So remember, when you log on to Zoom from here and you log on using your school account, it'll bring you to this page and you click on settings. And again, this is a really long page, so I'm going to do Control F. I'm going to type in remove, and here's the setting: allow removed participants to rejoin. You probably, if you're locking down your meeting the way we're suggesting here, you should leave this turned off. You don't want them to rejoin. If you kick them out and they can just rejoin, then the whole point of kicking them out, is going to be negated. So I would leave this setting turned off. Those are my security setting recommendations. If you have any questions, feel free to email myself or anyone else on the Tech Coach team. Thank you.